Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Our guest today is JP Cortez. JP is the executive director at Sound Money Defense League. Welcome to Wall Street Silver, sir.
Hey, Ivan, great to be here, man.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. This is your first time on Wall Street Silver, so I want you to talk about how you first got into Sound Money and what led you to that career that you're in.
Well, it started in high school for me. I was assigned a project where I had to research an American politician, and I was pretty apolitical at the time, albeit skeptical, but not really an interest in politics or markets. And I was randomly assigned Congressman Ron Paul.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, totally by chance, and it was through this school project that lit a passion in me for freedom and individual rights, private property. And that eventually led me to the Mises Institute down in Auburn, Alabama, where I got my degree. And it's studying the economics, studying the Austrian side, the free market explanation as to boom and bust cycles and things like inflation that really flipped the light switch for me. There is a moral side to all of this. We can obviously talk about the economics and we can look at the graphs and we can
Right.
talk about all of the regressions, but there's a very human side to sound money. And that is no one voted for this. No one voted for inflation, and none of us chose this.
Right.
This is a monetary system that was sort of foisted upon us, and whether we like it or not, we're trapped in it. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can reimagine money, government money by government edict, money by fiat. It doesn't have to be that way. So that sort of was the basis for a passion for sound money and freedom, libertarianism, anarcho-capitalism, and then I came out of college and I met with Stephen Gleason, the president of Money Metals Exchange, an online precious metals dealer. And we began the Sound Money Defense League. This is
Wow.
a group that works to remonetize gold and silver as money across the United States. As we see it, the primary reason why people aren't using gold and silver today isn't because gold and silver aren't good money, but rather because the government has shackled gold and silver with all of these taxes and regulations and
Right.
disincentives that make it unworkable as money, right? There's too much friction. When you buy it, in some cases, there's a sales tax. When you sell it, there's a capital gains tax at the state and federal level in most cases. So
Hmm.
there's too much friction for it to exist and work as money. So we're going around state to state changing that, removing the taxes, working to establish in-state bullion depositories, working to bolster state investments with physical gold held on the
Wow.
state's balance sheets. So these are all steps that we can take because we understand, of course, that the dysfunction of America's monetary system comes from the Federal Reserve. It comes from the federal level. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things that states can do to mitigate some of this damage. And some states are really stepping up.
Absolutely. Like you absolutely nailed it. Now, JP, what states in the United States right now that do allow silver and gold as legal tender, or are there any?
Yeah, there are several. Many states have removed all of the taxes on precious metals, which is functionally the most important thing you can do to actually reintroduce using gold and silver as money.
Are you seeking a secure, truly offshore solution to protect your wealth? Whether you're invested in gold, silver, or other precious metals, strategic wealth preservation is the strategic storage choice. Located in the Cayman Islands, SWP offers a state-of-the-art 6,000 square foot facility, purpose-built to safeguard your assets with unparalleled security and privacy. Why choose the Cayman Islands? This premier jurisdiction has zero taxes on stored precious metals, no reporting requirements, and complete peace of mind, making it the ideal solution for investors looking to diversify internationally. At SWP, your metals are fully segregated, allocated, and insured. You can buy online or in person. Plus, SWP has a dedicated logistics team that facilitates the global transportation of your precious metals from almost anywhere in the world. Learn more about SWP and how they can help secure your precious metals offshore. Visit swpcayman.com or call them today, and the link will be in the description below. Thanks.
There
Right.
are 45 states in the country that have removed sales tax, either fully or partially, on the purchase of precious metals. There are 13 states that have removed capital gains tax.
Wow.
So on the sales tax side, there are only five remaining. And of those five, we're expecting legislation in at least four of them in the upcoming year, in the upcoming session. So the goal is to completely make this tax extinct here in the United States.
Wow, what a
On the
beautiful
capital,
goal.
I know, and it's totally achievable. You know, when we started this, I've been doing this almost 10 years now. This is the 10th year anniversary of the Sound Money Defense League, and I can tell you that when we started all of those years ago, there was not this buzz and there was not this fervor for sound money the way it is today. We were writing model legislation and going state to state begging legislators, "Hey, please consider
Wow.
introducing this bill. This is important." And back then, back in 2017, I remember writing a bill. We wrote a draft bill for the first time that would allow the state, it would actually mandate the state to hold physical gold stored within the state on the state's balance sheet. That was
Really?
2017. And the price of gold was $1,250 back then. And politicians laughed at us. The few that even considered it said it was a bad idea. The banking lobby came out, the financial lobby came out, the pensions, the investment groups, all of these people came out and said, this is a horrible idea. You would be
Really?
doing a bad thing to invest state money in gold. And not even 10 years later, the price of gold is what, clawing over 2,700 today. The people that had a fiduciary responsibility to their state and to the citizens of that state were derelict in that duty. They were totally wrong. And
Hmm.
so gold and silver is continually proving financiers, proving bankers, proving central bankers wrong over and over again, because people always seem naturally, whether individuals, of course, individual investors,
Hmm.
states themselves are starting to invest in physical gold. And we're talking more and more about Brics currencies and international conglomerates all coalescing around a gold-backed currency. This all comes back to sound money, gold and silver.
Yeah, this is such a fantastic and beautiful goal. Have you ever met Ron Paul by chance?
I have seen him speak multiple times, and I actually was
Nice.
fortunate enough he invited me onto his show
Wow.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. So I had
Wow.
the opportunity to speak to him. And he birthed so much of this, certainly for me, and he
Mm,
inspired so many others. And,
absolutely.
I think there are really practical things that can be done. And I worry sometimes, especially like in the libertarian space, in the political space, there is a lot of talk and a lot of penmanship and a lot of ink spilled on these issues, and there are fewer people actually going out and doing the things,
Right.
putting the Austrian perspective, the free market perspective into motion. So it's really empowering and humbling to be able to affect change in this way. We release an index every year, the Sound Money Index, where we rate all 50 states by their either pro or anti sound money policies. I actually have a copy of it right here. This is this year's uh, version of the index, so we're ranking all 50 states. We've got different maps that connote different things. And
Wow.
one of the most really powerful things that I've enjoyed through the process of this is that every year, seemingly, someone will reach out to me, someone will email me or phone call or call me and say, I moved because of your sound money index. I
Really?
started a business because of your sound money index. I
Wow.
chose to relocate my assets in this place or that place, moving out of a state that was in the bottom half of the index towards a state that affirmatively protects rights of gold and silver investors and owners and users. So it's a very empowering thing. And we can see it making a real difference at a time where inflation is eating Americans alive. And there are so few alternatives and options for people to escape some of this. And gold and silver are obvious options that have been great alternatives, great hedges of inflation for thousands of years.
And I always find it funny that central banks, they print fiat, they print, but they still buy gold.
Well, they have to. They
Right.
have to because they understand, there's a lot of talk and about how gold is no longer a monetary asset, is a barbarous relic. Yet central banks, of course, the United States supposedly has a very large holding of gold. The countries all over the world, central bankers all over the world are stockpiling gold. The Czech Republic, Germany, Russia, Turkey, all of these countries, whether they have an adversarial relationship with the United States or not, are starting to look around at the global state of play and say, hey, wait a second. The United States has an outsized amount of power
Right.
and the way it rules that power or enforces that power as a global reserve currency has become perverted and weaponized and politicized. There should be an alternative. And of course, gold and silver being money for thousands of years, not having no counterparty risk, having all of the traits and properties that you want a money to have. Of
Right.
course, countries are saying, yes, we need to come back to gold.
And the BRICS nation, a lot of people have been talking that for years now, that, BRICS is going, it's 40 or 45% of the global population. All these nations, it's surrounding the West and our Western, the way we do sound money, or we don't even do sound money, but it's just surrounding the West.
Mhm.
Do you think BRICS will come out with a gold-backed economy or currency? Do you think it'll be successful?
I do think that they will come out with one, similar to the way Zimbabwe recently came out with a gold-backed currency.
Right.
And I think an important part, though, like Ivan, if you look at it, is much like the Zimbabwe currency. I don't know if you'd seen the news; it has already been devalued since its original launch.
Right.
So the larger point, I think, is whether or not BRICS establishes a gold-backed currency. Yeah, I think it might happen. Whether or not it succeeds is a entirely different question, because establishing a gold-backed currency and maintaining one are two completely different things. Anyone can establish a gold-backed currency, but to maintain one requires immense fiscal discipline. It requires complete immunity from the political pressure that comes with a populace wanting its government to spend money all the time.
Right.
So politicians are not known for their ability to lower their time preference and to think about several generations in the future. So yes, while I think that the BRICS countries can come together and start a gold-backed currency, I think that their capacity to maintain one will be much, much lower. And the United States right now has no real global threats, in my opinion, to
Right.
its status as a global reserve currency. Certainly, there are competitors coming up. Like you mentioned, there are the BRICS currencies and the BRICS countries talking about establishing a gold-backed currency. There are, of course, also things like digital alternatives, crypto alternatives, things like Bitcoin, but also things like asset-backed digital currencies, gold-backed digital currencies, things of this nature. So, for better or for worse, the US dollar as a global reserve currency is experiencing more competition than it has in a very long time. And now the stewards of America's money are at a crossroads and they have a choice. They can go down the road that every single fiat paper currency throughout history has undergone, which
Right.
is to slowly devalue until you are just the next paper currency in the graveyard of all paper currencies. Or you can become better stewards of America's money, be more diligent about and judicious about the way you're choosing to spend the money, not
Right.
fight global wars of choice all over the world, not inflate a giant American bureaucracy, not continue to fund what is a Ponzi system that is the American entitlement system. So, with all of those things being the case, if the case is that deficit spending will continue, that wars will continue, regardless of who is in office, if that is the belief, then there's never been a more bullish time for gold and silver.
Yeah, I mean, look, from the conception of America's beginning all the way, I think it was like till 2010 or something around there, they printed 19 trillion. And then in the past 10 years, we printed 19 trillion. And
Mm-hmm.
we just added $1 trillion in the past, like, I don't know if it was like 3, 4 weeks or a month, 2 months. Someone said they just added a trillion.
And you have all these experts shaking their heads, scratching their heads, saying, oh, wait, there will be no inflation. Of course, all the experts confirm there will be no inflation. I believe Jen Psaki's at the podium, her quote was, all the economists, or none of the economists we've talked to have said that the Inflation Reduction Act or any sort of COVID related spending will cause inflation. And then, of course, it was transitory. And then it was Putin's fault. And then it was the fault of your grocery store CEO. And then it's greedflation. But ultimately, it's always a pivot. It's always blaming the next person instead of looking inward, right?
Right.
And the capacity to create money is, maybe throughout all of mankind, the most sought after monopolistic power that those in charge seek to gain. The
Right.
power to control money, the supply of money, and therefore the value of money is such an incredible power. And uh, world leaders, oligarchs, politicians, religious figures throughout the history of the world have sought to control that power. And we can see why. This is what happens. Since 1971, supporters of free markets and the Austrian school told you when you sever that last link to gold, you're going to get an increase in deficit spending. You're going to get perpetual devaluation of the purchasing power of your money. You're going to
Right.
get an incentive for war, an incentive to spend. And of course, the Austrians, unsurprisingly, Ron Paul was right. And so now here we are, and politicians have shown they can no longer be trusted with this power. They never could.
Yeah, no,
So,
they can never be trusted.
of course not. Of course not. And so we need to create institutions that don't require trust. Gold does not have value because a country is strong or a country has military might or a country has natural resources under the ground. Gold is gold because gold is money, rather, because gold is gold. I don't have to
Right.
trust the person I'm doing business with. I just have to trust my weight and my purity tester that say that what I'm transacting in is in fact sound money.
Wow. Yeah, you've absolutely nailed it, JP. It's been such a breath of fresh air you coming down to Wall Street Silver. Before you leave though, I'd love for people to connect with you. Where can people find you, connect with you? Yeah, I'll put the links in the description below as well.
Yeah, Ivan, it's been great, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of
You
course.
can find me on Twitter at JPCortez27. You can also the Sound Money Defense League at Sound Money Def. The website is soundmoneydefense.org. You can actually find this and our other resources and other updates on legislation that is passing throughout the country. You can find all that on our website. The index is hosted on moneymetals.com. You can
Mhm.
find that there. The index is published in partnership with them. And yeah, lastly, I think I want to encourage everyone to be an active participant in this in their state legislatures. This is what we do, and for the last 10 years now, we have gotten this down to a science, and we understand what works and what doesn't, and what is effective and what isn't. And the most powerful tool that we have to pass this legislation, it's not compelling arguments from me. It's not letters from me. It's hearing from people in the state. That's what gets these
Right.
laws across the finish line. So please sign up to on our list. You can find that on our site. If there is legislation that's happening in your state, if there's a key vote or a key hearing coming up, we send the information. We send you the legislators' names and phone numbers and email addresses. Many times we even send a pre-written message. So all you have to do is click send. We
Nice.
make it very easy to participate and to be a warrior for sound money in your state. So I encourage everyone to do that. And thank you again, Ivan. This has been
Yeah,
great.
no problem. I highly, highly recommend everyone. Please go connect with the JP. Please go check out the websites. And you know what, JP, it's such a huge pleasure. Everyone watching, please hit the like button and subscribe. And JP, in the future, I'd love to have you on. Maybe in the next 2 weeks, as the market develops, I'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely. That sounds great. I think we have a lot left to talk about.
Oh, of course. Okay, talk to you soon, JP.
Sounds good.